Hey guys, it's the mixtape specialist. I made this video to show you guys when you make a mixtape the standard template size on making one. I get a lot of questions on starting off with the size, so I'm gonna provide a general overview of the size and also a downloadable template which you can just download and use for yourself. I'm using Photoshop CS6. It's the most standard and probably the most recommended image editing software you could use for designing. And so I'm going to start off with the size. So when you create a new file in Photoshop, you always want to start off with the resolution 300 dpi. What I see many new designers do is they start off with something around 72 or 100. By default, sometimes it's at 72, and that's really important. You would think that you can just scale up a file. For example, 5x5 is how I start off with on a design. Now, if I was to leave this at 72, you would assume that, okay, well, I can just increase the resolution by going into image size and increasing the resolution here to 300, which is not the correct way to do it. What you're doing now is you're distorting the image even worse. You're designing the image in 72 dpi and then you're enlarging it up to 300 dpi. What that does is it just pixelates and blurs the image and text even worse. So you don't want to start off your initial design at 72 or anything under 300. So you're going to start off always at 300 dpi. This is the standard and recommended resolution you're going to need for any print. If you're going to send it to a printer, they're going to need the resolution at this size. So keep it at this size in the beginning, so that way you won't have any problems and any distortion later on down the road when you save the file. Again, at 5x5, I start off with, this is just how I do. Once you click OK, now there's something called a bleed. A lot of printers require a bleed. I'm sure you've heard of it. Now, a bleed is the area where after they print the paper, there's an area that's going to actually be cut off in order to create the print all the way to the edge. Now the bleed is normally 0.125. Here's a great example. Here's a great way of doing of centering and finding the bleed of something. So if the final output of the CD insert is going to be a 4.75, what I would do is make a whole new file. This is just another option of doing it. There's several ways of doing this. You could just create the guideline marks and bring them in here. So in this way we're just going to create a new file, 4.75 by 4.75. I'm going to go to File, Select All. Now I'm doing it on the menu bar, so you can see here I normally do shortcuts. And I'm going to copy. I'm going to go back to the 5x5 canvas, and I'm going to paste. What that's going to do is it's going to create another layer. Now I'm just going to invert it just to show you exactly what it did. So I pasted that 4.75 file on here, and what Photoshop does is it automatically centerizes that file on top of the dead center in the canvas size of wherever I'm pasting it. So that way I have a dead center marked on where the center marks are. Now what I can do is use the guidelines to drag it to the edges, click on the ruler, drag down, and it's going to snap to the guide, to the layer, so you can see the guides on here. Now you can just trash this layer, and then there you go, there's your guides. So what the guides mean is you just want to keep everything when you design. You always want to have a bleed. Everything within this blue line you want to keep is your safety area. So that means you don't want to have any text outside of here, such as this. You don't want to have your text outside the area. This would cause your printer to deny printing this file and just slow down the process. So you want to keep always your text within the guidelines, and also any faces, maybe any eyes or mouth, nose. Just keep everything in here that you don't want to purposely cut off. And that's how you create your guides, and that would be your center marks for your bleeds too. So start off with a 5x5. Go back, see the video on how I just pasted the file, so you can kind of mark your guides really perfectly center. Another way of doing it is, if you didn't have the guide, you just have to measure yourself. You just have to know how to know the ruler and the size just to get it down perfectly yourself. RGB or CMYK format. When I design in both. Depends. A lot of mixtapes are done in RGB, somewhere in CMYK. I like to do RGB just because of the color. The color variation is a lot brighter than CMYK. What I'll do is design it in RGB and then flatten the file to CMYK. So for example, if this file here is done in RGB, after I finish, what I'll do is go to layer, flatten file, and then come here to convert it to CMYK. And it's this way I do it. I just like to do it in CMYK because the color variation is greater than CMYK designing. But everybody has their own preference. Just figure out which way it works best for you. And finally, when saving the file, again, depends on who you print with. A lot of times printers just need JPEG files. TIFF files are good to use, but nowadays a JPEG file will work perfectly. Save a copy, and I would give it at its highest resolution. Anything above a 10 is good, but again, obviously the higher, the better quality it'll be. Save that, and that's it. And I'll put a downloadable template if anyone needs it. And again, it's just in Photoshop because again, it's the most used software out there. So if you don't have it, it is an expensive software, but it's well worth it. And again, if you have any questions, shoot me an email or just leave a comment below the video. Thanks.